Hello everyone, my name is Matthew May. I'm here doing the building analysis project. My building assigned was the Hypostyle Hall, which is part of the Temple of Ammon, which is located in Karnak, Egypt. The architect of Hypostyle Hall was Seti I, who lived from 1294 BC and he died in 1279. He was the pharaoh of the New Kingdom 19th dynasty of Egypt. So we're talking a long time ago here. Hypostyle Hall was built during the Ramesside period, somewhere between 1295 and 1186 BC. As I said before, it's located in the Temple of Ammon, which is in Karnak, Egypt. As far as the form or shape of the building, I wouldn't really consider it a building. I'd consider it more of a structure. I guess back then you could consider it a building, but it's just not something you typically see, which is what makes it so significant also. But it's considered a hall, which contains multiple columns, 134 altogether to be exact. 12 of the columns tower over 65 feet tall, and the remaining 122 sit about 45 feet tall. Originally, the columns held up a roof, which contained a network of very, very large stone beams called architraves. Many parts of the structure have now collapsed. So if you look here, these would be considered like your architraves, and then here you can see it, your architraves here, and then you got your roof held up there. The function or purpose of the building, it's something that I found probably the most interesting about it. The halls were used for performing religious rituals. Now, it's not something that was ever open to the public or anything like that. And if it was on a very rare occasion. But it was mainly open to priests and to the pharaoh. Those are pretty much the only people that were allowed to go into the hall. The only time public would be allowed there would be to view festival processions for the different times of the year, sort of like if you could relate to our modern day, like our Easter or Ramadan, something like that, like a celebration as part of their culture. As far as the materials and methods used for the construction, the main construction material used for the Hypostyle Hall was sandstone. Did my best to sort of replicate the sort of sandstone look with very limited options here, which I think it came out pretty well actually on that aspect. Mud brick, however, was used in some spots. More different parts of the Temple of Ammon rather than the Hypostyle Hall itself, but it did contain mud brick also. As far as the significance, as I mentioned briefly before, Karnak was supposedly the largest religious gathering space in Egypt's royal capital of Thebes, which we've all probably heard of. It was also home to the god Ammon-Re, hence the name Temple of Ammon, which it's part of. The building reflection, as far as the spirit of time where it was built, the Hypostyle Hall really reflected something to be considered elegant as well as private. As mentioned before, not just anyone could go there. There were certain times, if ever, they were allowed to be in there. As I said before, the festivals or the certain special occasions that they'd be allowed to get in there. There were designated times for these festivals or these viewing parties, so to say. In my opinion, it started sort of a trend. Considering the fact that it's so incredibly old and the first known of its kind, it started something kind of historical. It's most commonly the reason why people refer to it as the Great Hypostyle Hall. It's something that many people consider great. The meaning of the structure reflects multiple generations and multiple eras of royalty. Pharaoh Ramesses II and Seti I both had a share in the total completion of the structure. Hypostyle Hall is a Greek term that means a building having rows or columns as you can pretty much obviously see. In my opinion, it would represent sort of the first view or first impression of Karnak. So to give you a quick tour of the model here, what I have here in the columns is some carvings, different sort of I guess you could say words or symbols more than anything, back from Egyptian times, and some of it might be sort of mythological or that sort of aspect. I believe they probably told stories, and we can kind of get the sense of what some of them mean. Compared to our time, like there's some arrows and a few different things on here. Man, I guess you could say like the arrow would represent some sort of hunting or something like that. But they're just hieroglyphics. But you could see the different levels of detail here in the columns. Something that's pretty interesting there, you see an arrow. As far as scale wise, if you put a ruler up to it, smaller ones here are right around 6 inches. These bigger ones here are right around 8. So it's pretty decent size. I tried to get something that would kind of allow me to have most level of detail, but keeping it kind of realistic at the same time. But I mean, it's pretty interesting to see how lined up these columns end up getting. Keeping the same measurements and so much symmetry. You see both ways. It all lines up, and that's exactly how it was. And it's still many parts today over there in Egypt. But yeah, I mean, after doing all this and carving this detail, it becomes to get some sort of tedious. But it makes you really realize what these people had to do, back in those times. I mean, you think about 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago. How would you erect something that's 65 feet tall, or something like that? It's pretty crazy to think about. It all had to be handmade. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it, and thanks a lot.